Straight line is not the shortest distance between 2 points. Madeline Langle. So, why would June remove the targeting program? The walk to the testing chamber with Emerald Fields was feeling a bit too quiet for me. I just hoped I didn't do something to get on her bad side. I've heard that bad things can happen with teleportation. Emerald sighed and glanced over at me.
It's because they were never meant to have a targeting program. That was a military add-on that became standard. The pitbuck was originally meant to help be a personal terminal, which it still is, but with the EFS and the SATs, making it a tool to help ponies kill other ponies. June doesn't like the idea of giving Equestria another weapon. Give another month or two, and it won't be a surprise to see every trooper, not in power armor, have a pitbuck to help them find and kill zebras.
Thinking about it, I knew a few ponies who would feel the same. I mean, the war had gotten so bad, the idea of us blowing ourselves into the apocalypse feels like it could happen tomorrow. Then why is it standard? I mean, it is cool and all, but I don't have a use for a targeting program.
To tell the truth, I don't know. The spell space they use would have been better spent on things like a levitation spell, or even the teleportation spell we were working on. My guess is that the military paid a ton for it. The CEOs just left it in. At least Musketball's modified SATs lets you run from a fight.
Emerald Fields sounded a lot less upset than she did before. Doesn't sound like June would get along with Musket, with all the guns and all. Emerald laughed.
Not as much as you think. They're both being mountain ponies, so there's a little respect and understanding between them. June understands that the guns Musket makes are intended to protect. Monsters do live in the mountains, and any tools that scare them off, mountain ponies will use. As for Musketball, he understands that June's kin were wrong by Equestria, and that's why she goes out of her way to not make any kind of weapons that Equestria can use.
Wait, what do you mean by June's kin was wronged by Equestria?
Oh, June's a Highlander,
she said with a matter-of-fact tone. So I raised an eyebrow at her to let her know that I did not know what a Highlander was. She got the message.
There's a small nation on the South Equestria border called the Highlands, though it's more of a collection of Earth Pony tribes that never joined Equestria. Well, the Highlands happen to be sitting on a mountain of coal, and I mean an actual mountain. Now, the Highlanders didn't have a need for the coal, so let Equestria mine their land as long as they paid a tax. It was a fair deal. Well, fair at first. The coal barons found ways to get around paying the tax to the Highlanders, and, as well ignored, cleaning up the mess that the mining operations had made. When the coal was all gone, the Highlanders were left with a giant landfill and no bits from what was taken from them. So that time, the war with the zebras had already been going on for a few years, so the Highlanders were just forgotten. That's why June doesn't want to make weapons for Equestria. The whole war started over the same thing that left her home a mess.
That was heavy. So, what happened to the Highlanders? I mean, currently, that is. Emerald sighed.
They're around. I heard that Stable-Tec offered to build them a stable, but it got turned down. Something about them making their own shelter. June called them all a bunch of stubborn fools.
We finally got to the end of the hallway, and Emerald smiled.
Here we are. Now, don't tell June about the new SATs program. Bad things can happen if a teleportation spell goes wrong.
I gave her a confirming but worried nod, and she then pressed the button to open the door. The testing chambers looked a bit like one of the rooms where they had an apple orchard from Labs A, but without plant life and with normal stable lighting. The spacious room was mostly empty, except for 2 pads on either side of the room, with many long cables stretched between them. A pair of big metal coils towered over each of the pads, which every now and then sparked electricity out of them. More cables snagged here and there from the 2 pods, and to a line of terminals the techs were working at. Cloudbank was among the terminals, looking half asleep. June stood next to one of the pads, looking much better, but still looking like she needed more sleep. I also saw that they were all wearing these big tinted glasses. Hero Emerald Fields had just put a pair on when we entered the room. June placed an apple on one of the pads, then quickly trot to the other techs. The air filled with a buzzing as the two pads came to life, sparking electricity from the metal coils. A loud crack came from the first pad when a large bolt of electricity flashed between the two metal coils. The second pad did the same then, and between the two pads, then repeated crackling energy down until it drowned out the noise. There was an almost blinding light. The rate of electricity crack suddenly increased before a great bolt of electricity flashed between the two pads. After that, the two pads slowly shut down. I had trouble seeing after all the bright flashes, the lines of electricity lingering in my vision.
Teleportation success!
Yelled a nasally sounding tech. June cleared her throat, getting the attention of all the techs. Don't call it a success until we check the results. Some pony go check the apple. One tech got out of their seat and walked over to the second pad. Tilting their head, the pony sat down and rubbed their chin. So, is it intact? The tech turned around.
It's an orange!
The tech lifted an orange up on their hooves, giving it to June. June face-hoofed.
I don't even... Let's try this again.
The techs all went back to tapping at the terminals. Isn't turning apples into oranges through teleportation normal? Because if it's normal, I think I'd skip the rest of this. The idea of me being turned into something else when I came out the other side frightened me a little. Emerald Fields snickered.
No, you'd be a potted plant.
My face twisted in shock as Emerald trot off to June.
That's not funny. You're joking, right? Right?
Sighing, I trot on after her. So the possibility of becoming an orange or a potted plant was now making me really rethink all of this. Not that I didn't like the idea of helping them with the teleportation testing. The idea that they have to use it is pure genius. The thing is, I like having my mane not made out of leaves. Not having second thoughts, are we? June puffed at her cigarette after speaking. How does she do that? I took a deep breath and raised my hoof, intent on letting her know about my concern. She cut me off with a cloud of smoke. Because you just saw us turn an apple into an orange after teleportation, when it should have stayed a damn apple. A tech behind June slowly put down the orange they were eating, which made me a little more worried. Now that's not going to happen to you. That's why we're throwing apples in first. Once we have the spell calibrated and working properly, then we might teleport you. June took another puff of her cigarette. Right now, safety is our top priority. I was still worried about the orange thing, but June did put me at ease for the most part. They were still going to make sure that it worked all right, testing out a bunch to know if it was right, then I might as well stick around. Though, looking at the whole setup, mainly the metal coils and bolts of electricity, it reminded me of the classic Franken Pony movie. So if they asked me to put bolts in my neck, I'm out.
We've got a terminal that we need to hook the pip-buck into.
Emerald walked over to an empty terminal at the end of the line.
It's over here.
Sitting down at the terminal, I found a pair of large tinted glasses and quickly put them on. I had to admit, tinted glasses did make me feel like I was a little cool. From my seat, I had a good view of the teleportation testing, as they put another apple on the first pad. The startup of the pads was the same as before. But with the tinted glasses on, it didn't hurt my eyes as much. The sound from the pads still drowned out everything else. A tech went over and showed what appeared on two pads. It was an apple, but without its red skin on. Now, that scared me more than becoming an orange. Awesome. We can patent this, right? One of the techs in the terminal line spoke up. Heal your fruit with science! The pony was a bit too excited over it, but it did sound like a cool idea. June had a face hoof again.
Make note of it, and we'll look into it after we ensure that there are ponies we can sell it to.
With a click, Emerald had my pip-buck plugged in the terminal.
Right. Once we have the teleportation pads all properly calibrated, we just have to do the same with the pip-buck, so just sit tight.
She plugged her own pip-buck into the terminal and pulled herself a seat with her own magic.
He's also excited. You'll be the first non-unicorn to perform teleportation if this is a success. We'll just going to be my pip-buck, but no details.
It was exciting. Really exciting. Also, it was becoming horrifying. I could be the first non-unicorn to perform teleportation, just without my skin coming with me. Firing the MG-1 for the first time might have thrown my emotions a bit out of whack for a moment, but the ideal of teleportation was sending my emotions to the moon. I was also starting to feel itchy from worry. The next test, they decided to use a banana. Pulling it from the bunch, it disappeared from pad 1, but did not reappear on pad 2. What the banana did was return to its branch, but as green goo. I added green goo to the list of how teleportation could kill me. A few more tests were successful, with attempts not doing anything at all. One giving the apple wings, and another test only sending half the apple to the pad 2. After that last test, I turned to Emerald with a question I hoped she could answer.
How in Tartarus don't you unicorns teleport without killing yourselves?
Clearing her throat, laughing.
Half of teleportation about visualization, the other half is about feeling with your magic. It talks a lot of practice to get it right, and some unicorns pick on it better than others, but rarely do any of them move more than a few hoof steps. But to answer your question, most of the time a unicorn casts a shield spell at the same time. That's what gives it the flash of light. It helps them take other ponies with them, so when a unicorn teleports, they're actually teleporting the space around them and just riding along. The few unicorns who are adept at this can cast the shield spell around just their body, or extend the spell to take as many others with them as they want.
That was a lot of info to take in. So why is it not working for the teleportation pads? 1001 big question. The explanation of why this is going to kill me.
That's because we don't have any unicorns who are adept at teleportation to work with. And even if we did have a unicorn get help, traditional teleportation does not work with what we need.
Emerald sighed once again.
What we're trying to do is make a teleportation network. It's something that traditional magic can't do, which means we're creating a high-level spell from scratch.
Rubbing my chin, I had one more question. Okay, so you're not using normal teleportation. What kind of teleportation are you using? Emerald took a deep breath.
We're calling it slip jumping. It's actually the combination of magic portals with teleportation. We take a micro portal connecting two places together, and through teleportation, have the pony switch places with another spot on the other side. This means for teleportation, we only need the magic power to move a pony a few hoof steps, and not have to worry about fusing them to the ground. That's something we can make a pip-buck attachment for. As for the portals, the labs in Lab D are working on that. They have a much bigger staff to work with, so I put my bits that they're long finished by now, and just stress testing the spell.
I was actually feeling a lot calmer now, and could not think of any more questions.
Thanks for explaining it to me. Think nothing of it.
The testing continued on, with a few near successes. One apple catching fire, another froze. After a few more tests, the apple came out normal. In each test after that, the apple teleported to pad 2 without any problems. The techs then teleported the apple from pad 2 to pad 1. They bounced the apple around a few times, from one pad to another. They even put an orange on the opposite pad, and one of the apples was on. And the next few teleports, the fruits switched places. It's all calibrated, Cloudbank spoke up. His voice was a bit strained, showing his need for sleep taking over. We can start the live testing anytime. June walked up to the row of terminals, her eyes scanning all the techs as well as me.
Now, Everpony, I know you all have lost of sleep over this.
Cloudbank groaned at this sentence.
But from here on, we take a true step forward. What we can do right now will ensure how many more lives can be saved. and that a better future can come from the ashes of the world left behind.
She then puffed at her cigarette.
So I'll tell you this once, and only once. Don't fuck this up. If Slowtrot dies, then we are up shit creek without a paddle.
The room was silent, nothing but the hum of terminals. June cleared her throat.
Now, do what you do best, and we can have cake when this is a success.
All the techs quickly went back to tapping at their terminals.
I think June probably needed more sleep.
Emerald gave a weak smile, pressed a button on the terminal my pip-buck was connected to.
It should take just a few seconds for the pip-buck to synchronize with the teleportation pads. After that, you can take part in the testing.
Is there a way to take part in the testing without, well, needing a pony to be teleported? Emerald gave me a look. I think it was one of concern.
We need some pony to have a pip-buck on for us to get any conclusive data. And sadly, the pip-buck you have on is the only one that can handle the magical stress.
She then plugged my pip-buck into the terminal.
We just need you to teleport a few times, and then we'll have all the data we need. As you can see, with the pads calibrated, you'll be perfectly safe.
Emerald then waved to June, who gave her a nod.
So chin up. We wouldn't do this if it wasn't safe.
This time I sighed.
You're right. I'm already here, so I can't back out now.
Getting out of my seat, I trot over to June. She was looking at her pip-buck, which was plugged into pad 1. Up close, the pad looked even more like it was out of a fictional movie, making the hairs on my back rise up a bit.
We just need you to stand on teleportation point 1.
I assumed she was talking about pad 1.
Don't worry about doing anything once you're on it. We have your pip-buck set to automatically activate once the system's ready for teleportation.
Taking a quick look over me, she hoofed a pair of earplugs.
Also, put these on, for your sanity.
I took the earplugs eagerly. With how loud it was from the terminals, I was glad to get some protection from it. So, has any pony been teleported through this? I walked into the pad, and June followed me.
We had a few ponies do it, and no, nothing bad happened to them. What you'll be doing is having your pip-buck teleport you. It's going to act like a magical unicorn horn, and zap you to the other pad.
June then patted me on the shoulder, and trotted to the line of terminals. I was now filled with more questions, but as the first crack of electricity went off, I quickly shoved the earplugs in. Looking back at the others, Emerald was holding up a sign. "Stay on the pad," it said. She lifted up another. "It could get messy if you don't." Well, I'm now committed to this mistake. So is my life right now. I could feel electricity all around me, and not one hair on me did not feel like jumping off my skin. The tinted glass at the earplugs didn't help. And being on the pad where the electricity bolts were going off, I was blind and deaf to everything. Long ago, there was a grand black dragon who watched over the night sky. The dragon was neither feared nor worshipped, nor did the dragon wish to be feared or worshipped. For to this dragon, the night itself was a grand treasure it protected, and all under the night sky were shining jewels he watched over. The bolts of electricity died down, revealing every pony to now be on the other side of the room. That, or it worked, I just teleported. Checking myself over, I was not an orange. I still had my skin on with all my fur. "I think you did it!" I waved my hoof at them, as my fear melted away. June waved back, and Emerald lifted up another sign for me to read.
"Stay in, a few more, and we're done."
Right. I put my hoof back down. At this point, if there was anything that could make this go wrong, it was me getting too excited and kicking something sensitive. The crack of electricity came back, and everything vanished in the harsh light and sound. As the dragon diligently saw the night for hundreds of years, he witnessed many wonders of the land, and became a keeper of secrets of its inhabitants. As time went on, a shadow became envious of the dragon's great power and knowledge. Invading the dragon's dreams as it slept, the shadow would whisper about how the sun is the greatest jewel that he could never have. Once the light faded, I could see that again I was still me. Looking over to the others, Cloudbank had moved to the floor, and from my best guess, sleep had finally won out. The pad came to life, and everything vanished once more. No longer able to hold back his envy, the shadow offered the dragon the power to make the sun for himself. By the time the dragon realized he had been tricked, the shadow had overtaken the dragon's body. With the dragon's power and knowledge, the shadow twisted the day into another night. Not only did the shadow hide away from the sun, but she also, in her jealousy, hoarded the light of knowledge from all the lands. Coming out of the teleportation this time made me feel a little lightheaded. How many more times do we need to do this? Emerald lifted up another sign. Just a few more. The answer didn't make me feel all that comfortable, but I had to trust him. Struck down by the dragon's brother, the shadow escaped her host, along with all of her stolen knowledge. The sun returned to the world, but the diligent guardian of night did not. Ever more powerful, the shadow plagued the dreams with those of great knowledge, as a black dragon, intent on stealing their secrets as they fugitively hid in fear of her and her own dreams. The lightheaded feeling was more pronounced, and it took a little longer for my eyes to focus. Can we stop for a minute? I'm not feeling great. Emerald put up another sign. Come back over here. Running off the teleportation pad, I felt a little better, so I took out the earplugs, placing them on a nearby table. June puffed on another cigarette. So what's wrong? A bit of smoke left her mouth as she talked. I was feeling a little lightheaded with the last two teleportations. And that's all. Well, it's good that you let us know. The data we got from the first 4 jumps alone is excellent. 2 jumps more and we should have all the data we need. Are you up for that? I had come this far, so 2 jumps seemed reasonable. I think I am. I need to catch my breath. Figuratively, I mean. Starting back to the teleportation pad, I looked back to see Emerald following me. I almost forgot these. The earplugs were floating in on her magic. Thanks. Putting them on, I gave her a nod. Nodding back to Emerald, trotting back to the terminals. Long ago, there was a wise old unicorn. He had become known throughout the land as the greatest spellcaster. He would spread the light of knowledge to all he met. The shadow eventually learned of this unicorn, and once more felt envy. Seeking him out to steal all that he knew, the shadow was relentless. So the thing about feeling better, it didn't happen. Dots appeared in my vision and slowly disappeared. Emerald lifted up another sign. Feeling okay? I'm fine. I can do one more jump, I think. The unicorn proved to be unfazed by the shadow's assault in his dreams, mocking each attempt she made. So the shadow came for the unicorn in his waking hours of night, taking the form of a black mare. But this left the shadow vulnerable, and when she came close to the old unicorn, an alicorn of brilliant light descended upon the shadow. Unable to escape, the alicorn released its wrath upon the shadow, stripping the power of all her shadows, and imprisoning her in the depths of Tartarus. Coming out of the teleportation felt worse than it had before. My light-headed feeling was dizzying, and I could barely see. Trying to step off the pad only resulted in tripping over my own hooves. Everything went dark. Light bathed around me, and the sound of wind through trees soothed my worried mind. I was sitting at a long wooden table. A plate of salad sat before me. The salad was vibrant with different color, but mainly rich greens. Across from me sat a pretty earth pony mare. She had a faded blue-gray coat and a platinum blonde mane. Thorn Roseland came off my lips. I could only guess that was her name, and a feeling of dread from my stomach told me that I didn't like her. Thorn pushed a pistol across the table over at me. I trust you know what to do with this. I didn't take the pistol. I don't think so. I pushed it back to her. Thorn grinned at me. Oh, I know you do. But if you insist, I can give you a demonstration. She picked up the pistol in her mouth and aimed it at me. Time seemed to slow down as she fired, the bullet slowly flying through the air at me. No matter how much I tried, I couldn't move. Thorn put the pistol down, moving at normal speed. You kill with it. Thorn smiled as the bullet slowly burrowed into my skull. My eyes shot open, and saw that looking back at me was Candy Pop. I opened my mouth, but she put a hoof over it, and with one of her own, shh. In my best opinion, you should get that thing off of him as soon as you can. Even if you did get rid of all the harmful spells, that Pip-Buck is still killing him. The accent I recognized, belonging to Dr. Lifebeat. It was hard to tell at first how much garbage was in that thing, but now I can clearly detect that the Pip-Buck is increasing the stress on his body. If you push the thing any further, Slowtrot is going to have brain aneurysm. Agreed. Can't believe I missed that. I'm having the key made as soon as possible. It was June's voice, sounding a bit rough. Whoever modified the 2600 should be arrested. To incidentally make it worse, slowly kill its user. That makes me sick. Well, the good news is that he'll be fine as long as you don't have that Pip-Buck use any high-level magic. But like I said, sooner it's off him the better. I could hear hoof steps slowly coming closer. Candy Pop, what's Slowtrot's condition? Releasing her hooves, she smiled. He just woke up. Slowly getting up, I looked around. The medical room was the same as it was the last 2 times I was here. Lifebeat glanced over at me. Good. Now, Slowtrot, if any more ponies ask you to do some experimentation, just tell them no. I'm not in the profession of letting my patients get themselves hurt just after I finish treating them. Don't worry, Doctor. I'm feeling like sitting the rest of this out. Having this thing almost kill me once was enough. And now that I know it's trying to kill me, it's better that I get it off sooner than later. Now then, I'll have Candy here escort you back to your room. You'll stay in the residential until that Pip-Buck is removed. Lifebeat looked into my eyes before nodding to himself, then walked out of his office. Getting off the bed, I was once again careful not to fall off of it. June had walked over to me, looking a bit worried. So, how'd the testing go? Did you get the data? I was worried that everything might have gone wrong. Yes, we did. But not without every pony getting scared half to death. June sighed, sounding a bit relieved as she spoke. It's going to take some time, but with that data, we can start making the attachment. I'll make sure that you are properly compensated for your participation. Now go enjoy yourself in residential. We should have the key for the Pip-Buck ready by tomorrow morning. I'm just glad that it was a success. And, well, that I'm not dead. Smiled a little. It was one of those relieved-like smiles. True. Now, you should get going. We'll come to you when the key's done. June pulled out a pack of cigarettes, but put them away when Lifebeat gave her a look. Candy Pop trotted over the door. Let's go, Slowtrot. I got a rematch at the arcade, and it'll be rude to keep them waiting. I shrugged and followed her. Thinking about it, with the testing all over, and with me being free from this Pip-Buck soon, I can enjoy some time at the beach before going home. I never had been to Merwai Islands before, so it couldn't hurt to ask if I could stick around at the resort for a few days. Soak up some sun, have some drinks, maybe find a nice mare who might find me interesting. I heard Stable-Tec employees are all really popular right now. Footnote. No new updates.